Welcome to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, starring Jerry Springer with Gene Galvin and me. I am Maria Corelli. We are recorded live in front of a brilliant studio audience here in Folk School Coffee Parlor of Ludlow, Kentucky.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the one, the only Jerry Springer.
Oh, wow. Oh, man. Thank you. Wow.
Hey, by the way,
Yes.
that was Maria Corelli, the third voice of our podcast.
Yes.
And she joined us.
In case people have missed our prior ones, Megan is...
Megan Hills was with us for years. We love Megan. She got a great job that requires her, it's in the field of human resources, her day job, and it requires her to miss the times when we record. So therefore, Maria Corelli, well known at the Folk School Coffee Parlor here in Ludlow,
Yes.
became our third voice. And previous to hiring her, she explained she would be in Mexico for a couple weeks, so that's why she's not here. So that's her voice, but Maria's not with us. She'll be back soon.
Yeah, I hope she gets back before they put the wall up.
The wall goes up. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's not going to be a wall.
Oh, maybe not. Well, we'll get to that in a second.
Yes.
And by the way, congratulations. You know us. We love Ludlow, Kentucky. We love Folk School Coffee Parlor.
Yes.
We love everything that's happening in Ludlow, Kentucky, this great little town along the river, across the Ohio River from Cincinnati.
Yes.
And it's going through a wonderful renaissance. And a new city council was elected last night. Some very forward-thinking people. One of them who won is a great friend of this show, Julie Terry Navarre. Yes. And Jerry, you supported her.
Yes.
She did very well in the field race, and you're going around claiming now. I know I've heard you say it. Well, Julie won because I supported her.
Yeah, it's kind of like Trump. If they put their arms around me, they win. Yeah, and those people running for political office.
Let's name them. Go down the line, just like Trump did today. Yeah. If you didn't catch that in the news, Donald Trump. This whack job that he is. Named all these Republican people who ran from him, and then he mocked them because they lost.
He ripped them at a press conference. Republican candidates for Congress, some of them were incumbents who lost. He ripped them all because the reason they lost, he said, is because they didn't put their arms around him.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Hey, and look, I think we should talk, by the way, let's let our listeners know, we are recording this episode on November 7th, which is one day after the really historic, it's historic.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big one.
Huge election.
A midterm election, the midterm election night of Tuesday, November the 6th. So we're going to kind of talk, and I'm going to ask you some questions, your analysis of what went down. Before we do that, let's congratulate Gene Galvin.
Let's do that. And I want to be the one congratulating you.
Go ahead.
Okay?
I'll accept the congratulations.
See, you're like Trump. You got to do it yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
No. Gene is a grandfather again.
Yes. Thank you very much. By the way,
daughter Lindsay gave birth
to Fiamma, a little 6-pound girl, beautiful little girl. I'm 57 years old, so what?
You know, it's getting harder and harder. First of all, some people watch this on Facebook so they can see you.
I've had a hard life, Jerry.
It was one thing for you to say you were 57 on radio.
I've had a hard life.
Yeah, it's a hard life. It's a hard 57.
And down some short roads.
No, but that's great. So you now have 3 grandchildren.
I have 6.
Oh, 6? 3.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 from...
3. My daughter has 3, and my son and daughter-in-law, and my daughter and her husband, Todd.
You Catholics.
Yeah, it's a Catholic thing. So last night in this election.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Let's give the big picture first. Can I kind of lay this out real fast?
Yeah, sure.
So across America, because of course elections happen at local, state, and federal level. We're going to talk about the federal level. And the Dems were hoping to win the Senate. Now, that would have been real hard, right?
Right, because most of the Senate races this year were races where there was a Democrat incumbent. Mm-hmm. So therefore, the Democrats had to protect their offices, and anyone they lost would mean that the number would go down.
So they were defending.
Now in 2020, it's going to be reversed big time, where most of the Senate races in 2020 ones held by Republicans, so they're going to have to defend, and there could literally be a sweep back the other way with only a few changes.
And by the way, the Dems actually did pretty decently compared to what might have happened. For example, the senator in Montana won.
Yes.
The senator in West Virginia won. They were defending there,
Yeah.
and those were strong Trump states.
Yep.
They picked and 100 women came into the U.S. House.
Yep.
Women won governorships in Kansas and Michigan, New Mexico. So there were some really good things that happened. But of course, the big story is upwards to 35 and maybe more seats switched over to the Democrats in the 435-member House of
Yeah,
Representatives.
they now have at least a 25-vote majority in the House, and that's significant. I mean, that you can afford to lose a few votes on big issues and still carry the day. So the Democrats are in a very powerful position. That one thing that struck me, and then we'll talk a little more about it later on, but one thing that did strike me, there was one headline in one of the papers, or maybe I saw it on the internet, where the Democrats were celebrating their victory, but there was a tinge of disappointment.
All right.
In other words, some of their big star candidates, like in Texas and in Florida.
Beto O'Rourke was an example.
Right.
Gillum.
And Gillum, it didn't come through, and so there was some disappointment. And it just struck me, something that I remember right after, it was the night of the 2016 election when, Hillary lost, and I was in Times Square hosting with Piers Morgan the presidential election for England, for ITV, one of the big networks in England. And so we were the co-hosts, whatever, and we had guests on. And that was just like the worst night because I had to sit there and pretend to be unaffected by what was going on, and it was just horrible. And I regret that I don't remember the name of the guest we had. She was an African-American woman, and she said something which really, really struck me. She said, as she looks around and talks to her friends, she had been backstage, that the Democrats were walking around crying and just, you remember that night. And what she said is, among African Americans, we're used to this. In other words, you guys, she was saying, get upset because you lost this election, a big election, and you lost it. For 150 years, if we were, for example, living in the South, every election, it didn't matter who won, someone would be in there would say, you can't go to these restaurants, you can't go to these hotels, you can't have these jobs, you can't live in these neighborhoods, and if you're real bad, we're going to lynch you. I mean, this stuff, we're just pampered by what we think. In other words, her reaction was, and it really kind of made me sit up, and I said, whoa, that's what perspective means. Yep. And here we're saying as Democrats, we just won the House, and which is big news. And because that is the brakes on Trump. And, we're disappointed because we didn't win in Florida and we didn't win in Texas. Yeah, it would have been nice if we won. And one day I suspect we will. But I think we kind of got to look at this in perspective. And the one other thing I'd say is that we've been saying that 2018, get out and vote, because if we don't win in 2018, there's no 2020. And that proved to be right. View it this way. It's a football game. It's the fourth quarter, 2.5 minutes left, and your team scores a touchdown and is now within 1. The other team gets the ball. So you kick off to them and you send in your defense, and your defense has to hold them to give you a shot in the last minute to come back to give your offense a chance to win. That's what 2018 has been for the Democrats. That we had to send in the defense, which means put up something to stop Trump from doing any more damage. That's the way to look at it. What the winning of the House did is it doesn't undo everything that Trump has done, but it stops him in his tracks from being able to do things on his own. It's no longer one-party rule. The one area where they do have total rule is with judicial appointments because they have the Senate. There's nothing we can do to stop that. But everything else, all his crazy ideas, he's now going to need the votes of a Democratic Congress. So what we did is we sent out the defense. We said, just hold them to 4 downs, and then we can come back in 2020 and win it all again with the presidency and winning the Senate, since most of the Senate seats will be Republican seats up for grabs, and we can pick some of them off. That's the way to look at it.
Good point. By the way, Ohio, and we're just across from Cincinnati, across the Ohio River, as I said, in Ludlow, Kentucky, but we were both kind of raised in Ohio politics.
Yes.
You came to Ohio 1969 or so. I was there my whole life.
June 11th.
And a Wednesday it was raining. Yeah, we know that. But so we really have followed Ohio politics, and you are friends with Rich Cordray, who ran for governor. I agree with you, Jerry. Let's keep it in perspective. We did very well as Democrats yesterday in the midterms. We did, and there's no reason to look at it any other way. But the truth is, in Ohio, we got our asses kicked.
We did.
The whole top of the ticket went down. A good friend of ours, David Pepper, is now, I'm sure, going to be on a chopping block because he's had 2 cycles where things have not gone well. And as you were saying driving over here, we wonder if when Ohio will be blue again, but it's bright red at the moment.
I think it's entirely possible. I hate to say this, but I honestly believe that right now, I don't think in the 2020 presidential election we're going to be one of those, as Ohio, so goes America. I don't think we're one of those toss-up states. The toss-up states are now mostly in the West.
A good point. But let me ask you this. That's a good point. However, do you know this? You were saying driving over here that Democrats in the election yesterday, when you tally up all the people who voted Democrat versus all the people who voted Republican, it was close to a 7-point difference in favor of Democrats.
Nationwide.
So the popular vote, once again...
Overwhelmingly Democrat.
Overwhelming. And the popular vote for Hillary Clinton was 3 million vote difference in her favor.
Yes.
But notice this situation. Clearly, the data shows, based on yesterday, that Trump's party, because the Republican Party now is 100% Donald Trump's party.
Got it.
Donald Trump's party is a rural party. It's a white/rural country.
Got it.
People out in the boonies where I have spent part of my time living. So I love it, but it's a rural party.
Yes.
The Democrats have always held the cities. And yesterday, as we expected, they got the suburbs.
Yep.
Because there were so many people turned off by Donald Trump's strategy, which was talk to the base, throw red meat to the base, irritate everybody else, fight with the press, attack the caravan. Notice he didn't talk about the caravan coming today and putting barbed wire. Caravan from Guatemala is nowhere near us. It won't be till December, if at all. So we have now urban and suburban. If we can figure out in 20, even in Ohio, this is a question, of having a very charismatic national candidate like a Barack Obama that gets your emotions going.
Yep.
Can we turn out numbers with students? By the way, here's another fact. The students who were the Parkland High School students, they're taking credit today for knocking off Comstock and a number of people who are heavily NRA supported, who they targeted. So there's some really good things happening and did happen. I'm hoping we can turn that on Ohio.
Yeah, one of the interesting, as we look at the numbers, not only did America vote Democrat by 7%, but also of first-time voters, people that voted for in their first election, Democrats won 63% of the vote. That's like 2/3 of every new voter voted Democrat, which is obviously primarily either young voters or new citizens that suddenly have their citizenship. So that, again, the demographics are on
in
the
our
side
favor.
are on this the side of Democrats, and it's not going to happen overnight. Remember, this was just stop Trump right now. And now we got to continue to build, because next election, we really do have a chance, not just to stop him, but to bring America back to Americans' hands.
Two quick questions. One is, do you think, and keep this kind of brief because I want to throw another one at you that's even deeper.
We'll make this the rant.
All right. Well, one is, does 2018, and by the way, before I ask this, would you agree that what we have to say to these new people is, you just engaged in the battle. You can't go home now. You can't be summer patriots and sunshine soldiers.
It's what that woman was telling me.
Works.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
this is
people
how it
in the
works.
civil rights movement, they couldn't just say we lost one election
And we're going home. No way. So you have to stay engaged. We have
It's
a victory.
lifelong.
We have victories that give us confidence to go forward. We have to go forward.
Yep.
What does 2018 tell us, if anything, about how to do it in 2020, or is it a preview of 2020?
It is not a preview of 2020. And the reason, I don't care what these pundits are saying, and I guess I'm a podcast pundit, but what these talking heads are saying, they're now everyone's trying to look at 2020 and this is what's going to happen. We have no idea, and we have no idea because, first of all, we don't yet know what Mueller knows. And now that we're going to have a Democratic Congress, we will find out what Mueller knows. In other words, all what he's been doing, even in the next 2 months, can't go away. It's written down someplace. It's in somebody's vault. The American people, after it gets subpoenaed, after January 3rd, the American people are going to find out everything that Mueller's found out. So we don't know what that's going to be. So therefore, and that'll be a factor, obviously, in 2020. We don't know what the investigations of all the committees now. Remember, the committees are now all in Democrat hands, and they have the subpoena power. So there's all kind of things that we're going to discover. What's going on with the environment, what's going on with our energy legislation, what's going on with housing. I mean, there's so much that we're going to now find out that has been buried as long as it was one-party rule, that all of a sudden that's going to have an effect on the election. And we don't know how many new voters there'll be in 2020. We hope there are a lot of new voters because we've seen what these numbers do. New voters come out and vote Democrat. So let's continue to get young people interested in this and they come out. And then finally, of course, we have no idea who the Democratic candidate's going to be. And, if we don't have a great candidate, all this stuff goes out the window because Trump will definitely get his base. We have to get someone that can get our base as well as
Equally energize ours.
yeah. So all those factors. So no, I don't know what's going to happen in 2020. All I know is we stopped Trump from the worst things he can do right now, and we've got to build on that. But we're starting it.
Let me ask you this: there was a controversy. Some people caught this. I did. You obviously did. About Sean Hannity. These are all people from Fox News. Sean Hannity, Judge Jene Pirro, and Laura Ingraham. They're all people who have shows on Fox News. Each of them, working for a news company, endorsed either Donald Trump in the case of Sean Hannity and Judge Jene Pirro, stood on stage with him at a rally the night before the election and spoke on his behalf and the candidates he was promoting. And Laura Ingraham sent out multiple tweets promoting several candidates. Is that within the ethics? Because you've been a news anchor on the NBC affiliate in Cincinnati. Can you do that and still keep your job?
Well, whether you can keep your job, first of all, it's not illegal. Secondly, whether you keep your job will be up to Fox News. Fox News is going to have to make a commercial decision about, and there's conflict going on within Fox News right now, within the Fox network.
Over that issue?
Over that issue, because they have some serious reporters, not the nighttime, cable guys, but they're regular reporters, and they are outraged about this because what they're saying is this really hurts our credibility. We're going out covering stories, and the rest of the media looks at us like, you're with Fox News, you're not to be taken seriously anymore, you're obviously partisan and all this kind of stuff. So there's a real debate going on within Fox News, and the Fox News executives issued a statement saying they don't approve of what happened. They probably don't want Hannity to do it. In fact, they don't want Hannity to do it. But what do they do? Because they're running a network and it's commercial, and they know that Hannity is their big draw in terms of advertising, revenue, et cetera, and ratings. And if they can him or suspend him, they're going to be losing a ton of money. So they're in a tough position. Now, look, from my point of view, I hate most of the things that Hannity says on the air. It drives me crazy. But he's always said, and I guess the others have too, that they're not journalists, that they are partisans. They are people that write columns, that give opinions. They are far to the right. They never run away from that. Hannity brags about, I talk to Trump several times a week on the phone. I'm not a journalist. Of course I'm partisan, and I'm on the air giving my point of view on an opinion broadcast. So, and then I say to myself, well, I watch an awful lot of MSNBC. And although, in fairness to Rachel Maddow, she never has gone out and campaigned, ever since she's had her program, campaigned for some Democrat or, been at a rally or something like that. But I don't get upset when she's obviously liberal and obviously says favorable things about, more liberal candidates, about Democrats. So I have to kind of step back if I'm giving an opinion about whether this is right, is I don't really complain when it's going my way. How much can I complain when it goes another? So I would fight for the right for Sean Hannity to say these hateful things, the things that I hate, but he has a right in America to say it. Where I think he crosses the line, and I would say this to him if we were sitting together, I would say this to him. I say, you preach all the stuff you want to preach. This is America. That's your right. I disagree with it all. I think you're crazy, but go ahead. That's your program. Say what you want. Where he crosses the line is when he got up on stage and says all the other networks are fake news and the press is the enemy. Because that is undermining America. He is undermining the very principle which gives him the right to say all the stuff he says. I mean, it's the craziest thing in the world. You want the right to go out and campaign for people, say whatever you want, say you hated Obama, say all this stuff. You see, you don't even have to be honest. You see, the First Amendment doesn't require honesty. It's free speech. And the reason you can't require honesty is who's going to determine whether what you say is honest? You can have the government decide what's okay to say and what's not. And of course, then we lose freedoms. So we agree in our society, First Amendment means, other than calling people to action of criminal activity, you can give any opinion you want, even if it's not the truth. You're allowed to do that. But when he's saying that just for competition and competitive advantage, because he wants to do better than MSNBC or CNN, when he says they're all enemies of the people and that's all fake news, he is, as I said, undermining free press. If people can't believe what the press says because you're convincing them it's all lies, then we don't have free speech anymore. Then we have only what the president says is okay. And you can't be for that, Sean. You know that's wrong. And you'll lose your freedom. So that is where it's gone too far. He has every right to go out because he's not a journalist. He doesn't pretend to be. He says he's not. He's not trying to give you the fair and balance, which was all tongue-in-cheek anyway.
By the way, he said that to a riser full of media people that included Fox News reporters. He didn't say most of you up there are fake news people. He said it to us. Can you imagine how pissed off John Roberts, is that his name?
Oh, right.
Their lead political reporter who's standing up there with fellow journalists. And by the way, they all do get along and they do respect him.
Yes.
The MSNBC people, the CNN.
Oh, yeah, and they stick up for each other.
Those real journalists do stick up for each other. And he made that crack to all of them. They must have fumed about that.
There's a lot of fighting going in within Fox right now with that. But that's what the problem is. So I'm not going to look. I complain about Sean Hannity's views, but I'll never complain about his right to do that. This is America. I don't want anyone telling me I can't watch MSNBC.
Good point, Jerry. Hey, tonight, do me a favor.
Can I have a napkin? I just spilled coffee all over me.
Jerry has soiled himself and needs some help. Can you pass?
Oh, that too. Go in there and
that's
get
a different place.
Double
pass
roll.
that water over
Absolutely.
to me.
Would you like some? Are you getting thirsty, Jene?
Yes, I like to have a little Wawa, as we call it.
Thirsty.
Hey, very excited tonight.
You know what? This stain looks like Indonesia.
No, it actually came out fine. Jerry, you can't see this. Jerry has poured coffee on his sweater. It's probably like an Armani sweater or something. My tailor is TJ Maxx, by the way.
If Mickey's listening, she's saying, not again.
Not again, right? Hey, we're very fortunate tonight. We have, as our musical guest, Jamonn Zeiler. And let me tell you a little bit about him. Rising Sun, Indiana. He's been on our show. It's been a while, but he was on another time. And he has a good story. The backstory on him is he is a luthier, and he makes musical instruments, wood instruments, and also repairs them. And we're real excited to announce that here at Folk School Coffee Parlor, Ludlow, Kentucky, a place that I urge every listener, if you're ever traveling across the Midwest, you got to just jump off of I-75, the major artery that goes from Michigan all the way to the tip of Florida. And it's very easy to get to Ludlow, Kentucky, where the Folk School Coffee Parlor is. And they just opened another branch, Jamin and Ben Knight. Ben Knight and the Grave Diggers, if I'm not mistaken. Well Diggers, thank you.
Hey, don't say that around us, all right?
I don't know. Those are both good names. But the Well Diggers. And Ben
nervous.
is joining Jamin. First of all, welcome to Jamonn Zeiler. Hey, let me just complete this thought. Ben Knight of the Well Diggers is someone who's been on this show a time or two.
Yep.
He lives in Ludlow, Kentucky. He's an example of many of the creative class people who have moved in here.
Yeah.
Bought a home. He's a wood guy. He's got a degree from the Louisville University in Kentucky, but he now has for pretty much his whole life worked doing great cabinet work, as I understand.
He does. He's a very fine woodworker.
And so it makes sense that he is now going to work with you. Mm-hmm. You were telling me before the show, Jamin, that you are training him as somebody who is younger than you by a few years to carry on your skills.
Yeah, I want to pass along my repair skills. I've showed about half a dozen people around the tri-state how to build acoustic guitars.
Okay.
But I've never really shared my repair skills. And my daughter's a dental hygienist. She has no interest, so I want to pass it down to somebody.
This is great.
I'm getting old.
But this is great. By the way, before we ask you to do a song, tell us if somebody takes an interest in seeing the guitars you make. Do I assume you make guitars and then you sell some, or are they all commissioned?
They're all commissioned.
All commissioned. So if somebody wanted to commission you, is there a website they can go to and see your stuff?
There is. It's GeorgiaPeachGuitars.com.
There you go.
Which
Georgia
is a
Peach
model I'm
Guitars.
making in honor of Dwayne Allman, but you could see my work on there.
And you're playing one of your guitars tonight.
Yeah, this is one I made recently.
Can I ask you a question? And sometimes you ask this, like asking somebody, for example, for years, Jerry and I have been buddies since like 1970.
Neat.
All along the way, Jamin, and I have watched, have you ever looked at when Barack Obama became president, the economy rose on a graph for 8 years. It just went up and up, and the longer he was there, the better the economy was.
Yep.
I have watched Jerry from the time of 1970 to today. I've watched his income rise, rise, rise. I've asked him 100 times, how much do you make? He will not tell me. So that's sometimes an uncomfortable question, but how much do your guitars cost?
They start at $4,000.
There you go,
But
4,000.
if you're a friend, I've never been much of a businessman.
Gotcha.
I make enough to make a living.
Want to be friends?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, did you say they start at 4,000?
4,000, yeah.
May I ask you this?
They're handmade. I mean, I make everything from start to finish, from boards.
We're going to ask you, because we chatted before the show, we're going to ask him to come back on again next week, too. And I want to ask you in that second episode, the next episode, a quick explanation of how it goes from start to finish. But one last question before we ask you to do a song. If you start at $4,000, would you mind telling us what has been the high water mark of a guitar for somebody?
6,500.
See, that's actually not bad, is it? I mean,
Not in today's world, no.
No, I'd say it's because, that's actually, I mean, it's a whole lot of money to me. My
It
guitar is.
I
and
couldn't afford it.
No, that's a lot of dough, but that's good.
It's a tip to me.
That's right.
Well, it used to be. It used to be. We've pulled the man off the hill. You know what I'm saying? You know. Hey, what are you going to do for us tonight?
I'm going to do a song I wrote called Let's Grow Old Together.
All right, let's hear it.
go.
Jamonn Zeiler.
I like old cars, and I like melody, and I like talking with you. You could say it's a miracle, watching life go by and making friends through the years. I'm happy I'm here, I'm happy you're here. Let's grow old together. Well, let's walk around here and dance a little too. Let's grow old together. Conversation, a cup of tea. I like kind company, and I believe in people, and that true love is content, and time with your friends is well spent. I'm happy I'm here, I'm happy you're here. Let's grow old together. Well, let's walk around here and dance a little too. Let's grow old together. Well, let's grow old together.
Oh, that's a good song.
That is lovely.
Thank you.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
Jamonn Zeiler. By the way, Jamin, people can hear your music how?
I sell CDs on CD Baby. I
All
have
right.
about 5 publications.
Under the name Jamonn Zeiler.
Jamonn Zeiler.
Jamonn.
NN or 1N.
Or either way?
Sometimes the extra N hasn't gotten on.
I got you. And Zeiler is Zeiler.
That's correct, yeah.
By the way, that's a sweet sounding guitar. That
Thank
guitar
you.
That
made.
is, yeah.
And one quick question on that. There, and if you're watching on Facebook Live, we encourage people to do that. By the way, you can know when our episodes run by going to jerryspringer.com. There's a schedule. And you can either get us on a live stream according to that schedule at jerryspringer.com or watch on Facebook Live. And if you put that camera on that guitar, the traditional guitars have typically a round hole.
Yeah.
And that one has an oblong hole on a diagonal. Tell us why. Is that for sound or?
This guitar, I had a friend pass away July 5th who I showed how to make guitars in '96, and he was a dear friend. And he always admired the way I designed as I went. I just would change stuff in midstream.
Really?
Because if you ordered a guitar and you say, just make me a guitar that you think sounds great, I would just design as I go. So I was making this in his honor. It's a lot like the first guitar he made in my shop.
All right.
And I had a round sound hole set up to do, and I thought, I'm just going to change it, because he always laughed. You just change. How do you just change?
Yeah.
Because he was real kind of,
follow
let's
the rules.
plan it
And
out.
does it alter the sound?
It does. It actually throws it right up in your face when you have this
That's
oval sound
interesting.
hole.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
and it's very interesting looking, and you can almost have some pinstriping at the bottom.
Yeah, that's it's a
the-
little ray of sunshine for Dan. Ross was his
Okay.
name, and I inlaid some abalone there. So
Yeah, that's very
Beautiful.
cool. Very cool.
Thank you.
Do us a favor. Take us out on Down by the Riverside, the old
Yes.
traditional song, and Jerry's going to jump in on verse 2 if you'll let him.
absolutely.
Please.
And it might be last time this song is ever sung
Yeah.
in the history of humankind.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lay down my heavy load down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my heavy load down by.
You've been listening to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, recorded live at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky. Thanks to Patrick Kennedy for writing our opening song, and to you for listening. Check out our website at jerryspringer.com.
I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more.